What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Kuempel with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. We have a very interesting guest. Her name is Christina Stanton. She is the author of Out of the Shadows of 9/11, licensed tour guide of the 9/11 site, and also a resident of the financial district where that catastrophe happened. Christina, thank you for joining us today. I think you have a lot of stories to tell the audience that it's a good reminder of what happened. Can you please introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about your background?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Christina, and I'm actually from Florida originally, and I moved up to New York City in 1993 when I was 23 years old, and I've lived there ever since. When I got married in 2000, my husband and I ended up finding an apartment kind of to start off our married life in the financial district. And up to then, I'd always lived in Times Square, very happy to live in Times Square.
Nice.
So I remember when he said, "Hey, I found this great apartment in the financial district." And I was like, who lives in the financial district? That's for banks and for finance companies, not exactly a residential community. And it really wasn't then. It's a little bit more now, but when he showed me the apartment, I was like, ding, 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 right?
Yeah.
Because it had this wonderful terrace on the 24th floor that actually overlooked the World Trade Center complex. And I don't know about you, but I love outdoor spaces.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of rare in the city. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. So fell in love with the apartment. And so we set up shop there and loved the new neighborhood. I mean, I was already familiar with the neighborhood because I've been a licensed New York City tour guide since 1995. So I was very familiar, but from a tour guide perspective of what I could tell tourists, not really like, where's the local bar that I like, or where's the local restaurant that's going to be my favorite. So just was really enjoying settling down to our new neighborhood and just a new marriage, right? So that morning of 9/11, I was still asleep and my husband was awake, kind of working on the computer, when all of a sudden our building shook. So the first plane coming into the North Tower actually shook our building. Wow. And my husband ran out into the terrace, just wondering what that was. You understand, we were exactly south of the Twin Towers. So that first plane came from north to south and lodged into the tower. So we didn't see anything on our side, right?
Right.
So he came, shook me awake. Come on, something's happened. Something terrible's happened. We ran out into the terrace and we saw flames on either side of the building. And we just thought a bomb had been brought in. Somebody had snuck a bomb in there. We weren't sure at all. We did turn on the TV, found out that it was a plane. We thought it was a small plane that had gotten lost. And then we were literally just kind of shocked and watching this panoramic crazy. It was almost like a massive TV in front of us. Yeah. When all of a sudden, over our right-hand shoulder, the second plane came 500 feet above us, went in front of us, turned, and went into the building. Oh, wow. And crazy enough, we were in the shock waves. It was kind of like a adventure movie, action movie. Literally blew us back into our apartment. The good news is we kept the terrace doors open, so we didn't hit the doors, let's say, when we were hit by the shock waves, but it knocked us out on our apartment floor. And I woke up, I had a little Boston Terrier. I woke up with the dog who was literally jumping on my torso in terror.
Yeah.
And some of the, those early thoughts were jumbled. I was just kind of trying to collect myself. I remember my husband saying, "Do you want to take your shoes? Do you want your shoes?" I was thinking, shoes? Why would I want shoes? Anyway, we got up and ran down the 24 flights. And, from where we lived, it was this building called 21 West.
Okay.
We were south. So if your inner alarm is ringing, all you're thinking is, how do I get the furthest away from danger, right?
Right, sure.
Yeah. Sure. For us, where we were, the furthest away was Battery Park.
Okay.
So are you very familiar with
I'm kind of familiar. I've been all over the East Coast, but it's been a while. But I know about Battery Park. Yeah.
Well, yeah, a lot of people know Battery Park because that's where you get the ferries to the Statue of Liberty.
Right.
So we kind of ran down there, but that's also the very end of the island, meaning you're surrounded by water at that point, like the Hudson, the East River, and the New York Harbor, right? Mm-hmm. So we thought we were safe, but as it turns out, we were actually trapped because when both of those buildings came down, they covered us with dust and debris. Oh. And, a lot of people know that the fires were actually very strong. Winds were blowing the smoke south and it was hitting the ground. So literally a cloud of black smoke enveloped the park. So
Oh,
now we're
wow.
covered with dust and debris. We're surrounded by black smoke, and my husband and I actually say goodbye to each other
Oh
because
my God.
that's just where we thought we were at.
Right.
We actually saw people pitch themselves into the New York harbor and try to swim to Governor's Island, which is the closest land, right? So
Wow.
it's crazy. We saw these crazy, horrifying, terrifying, the sights that you think you see in like a horror movie.
Yeah.
And so we were just kind of running around trying to find air pockets in which to breathe, and along with a couple of thousand other people. It's only a 25-acre park. It's not like
Right.
there's a
Right.
lot of places to run. We're kind of just flat out stuck and trapped. And then all of a sudden I look out on the water and I see all of these boats coming up the Hudson. And I wasn't sure what happened, but they came over to Battery Park, and this little area called Battery Park City, which is a residential community right above Battery Park. And they started coming up to the seawall, and people started, boarding them.
Okay.
And these boats actually took everybody off of Manhattan
Okay.
and planted them, in Brooklyn, went up the Hudson, upper Manhattan. Our particular boat that we got on was a white New York waterway boat, and it dropped us off in Jersey City.
Okay.
And I didn't know this until years later, but it's it was basically the Coast Guard who had let out a CB radio call saying, "Hey, anybody who owns a boat, captain of a boat, boat ownership, boat operator, come and start plucking people off of Manhattan." And
Yeah.
it's considered the largest boat evacuation in history, like larger
Wow.
than Dunkirk, during World War II. It's
Sure.
crazy. And so I didn't know that for years. I just saw a boat, we got on it, and we were
Yeah.
safe. But we really didn't get back into our apartment and situated until the next January.
Holy
So
cow.
yeah, so it was this crazy odyssey, and for us, it just kind of went on and on in the sense that, like, we have a dog. I love, about you. I love animals, and our dog got sick.
Well,
Right? Look at you. Oh my gosh, she even looks like our dog. Well, in the black and white sense, right? So we had this Boston Terrier, but it almost killed our dog because how animals are when
yeah.
they're covered with junk. They
Yeah.
try to lick themselves to clean themselves.
Yeah.
Well, we now know what's in that dust was ground up glass and shredded wood. Blah, blah,
Right.
blah. Well, it shredded his insides.
Oh my God.
I know.
No.
So he clung to life, for months. My husband went to Clemson. We was really close to his fraternity brothers. One of his fraternity brothers died, and we had PTSD. It just kind of went on and on and
Sure.
on.
Sure.
And that's what I talk about in the book that I wrote, and I talk about it from the perspective of a resident, because when I think a lot of people, when they think of 9/11, they think of the planes, they think of the towers, not as much about the 25,000 of us who lived in the nearby communities who were
Right.
affected, like with the 6 pets and not being able to get back, being displaced, not being able to get
Right.
back into their home. So I just kind of put my voice out there just as another angle, just to kind of complete the 9/11 picture that people have.
Sure. What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Kuempel with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. Ho, 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 ladies. The holidays came early, not only for you, but for your man here at Manscaped, the leading men's hygiene brand. Manscaped just launched new products that your man will actually use, including their all-new ultra premium body wash and a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. Also, this awesome refined cologne. It smells so sexy. My man loves it. I love him wearing it, especially after he's all clean shaven, using the Lawnmower 4.0 and trimming those nasty nose hairs and those ear hairs. You know what I'm saying, ladies? It's time to give the man in your life the gift of beautiful skin, hair, and balls this holiday season. Go to manscaped.com and use the code LABELFREE20 for 20% off and free shipping. That's right, ladies, 20% off and free shipping with the code LABELFREE20 at manscaped.com. Thank you for that quick break, Christina. Can you tell us a little bit about your book and the premise of it? Because I think that you did very well with your book, right?
Yeah, it's done well. It's won some awards. It's actually sold pretty well. And to tell you the truth, I don't make any money off of it. I actually have a nonprofit that I established 4 years ago, and all the money goes to that for my pet projects of work that I do overseas, but primarily for orphans, actually. So
That's amazing.
it was really cathartic to write it. It was, but again, I'm a licensed New York City tour guide, and I've been given tours, since 1995 when I took the tour guide exam. And after 9/11, I was struck by. I felt there was a lot of stories that hadn't been put out there by the media. I wasn't sure why. There was no blame about it, but I've kind of almost done my own litmus test of what people know and what they don't know about 9/11 and all the tours that I give. Right,
Yeah.
so it's kind of a compilation of what I felt were little known stories, or they're known to New Yorkers. They just didn't seem to make their way around America. So it's kind of a collection of stories, and then my own story, or my husband and I, kind of woven into that. So my first idea, honestly, was to just do a compilation of what I consider little known stories.
When you say little known stories around 9/11 and people
And
that.
9/11. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you for right. Now, like the boat evacuation. A
Oh,
lot of people
right.
are just not aware of that.
No, I
And
didn't hear that. Yeah.
right. It's just one of those best kept secrets that doesn't need to be a secret, to tell you the truth, because it's a lovely, heartwarming story
Yeah.
about how almost 800 people in the maritime industry around New York City came together. They volunteered. Some of them brought canoes. I
Wow.
mean,
I'm getting goosebumps right now as you're telling me
oh,
this. I'm
it's
just like,
amazing.
ooh.
It's amazing. So, and by the way, just throwing it out there that there is a 10-minute documentary out about it called Boat Lift, and it's narrated by Tom Hanks. But it's like a great intro into what that whole thing was. So just 10 minutes, Tom Hanks is really great. But so it's things like the pets, our dog almost dying. A lot of people aren't familiar with kind of like those kind
No.
of stories, but actually, like, our next door had two golden retrievers. They died instantly.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible. I would
And
be.
you know what? There hasn't been like a dedicated study on pets who died. It was just a lot of hearsay. I go to the dog park, our local dog park in Battery Park City, and everybody would be talking about, oh, this schnauzer died, or remember that dog who used to come here, he's dead too. It's just because dogs are close to the ground. They breathed in that noxious toxic dust,
Yeah.
and it killed them. And so it's just, is that an important story to tell? I
It is. I mean, as my dog is, he's saying yes. It's an important story. He's
yeah,
Teddy always like, you love to make an appearance. So knock it off.
But I mean, it's really true. Again, it just helps complete the story of the broader story of 9/11, and also it's kind of for people who who maybe haven't been to Manhattan, haven't they were born after the whole towers, and
Right.
who were born after the whole thing happened. Maybe they would understand a dog dying, or being homeless, because we were homeless for 2 weeks, or the boat evacuation. So it's always my bid to try to get people connected to the idea. Like, for instance, when I bring tourists to the 9/11 memorial, I take them straight to my husband's friend, where he is listed on the memorial, and I have pictures of him. I had met him
Yeah.
too. Here's, it's not just a name, on
Right.
the site. Here's this guy. He went running with the bulls in Spain. He did like 5 marathons, and just trying to connect up, like,
Yes.
this was a real event. It really happened. It was really that horrible. And, but for the grace of God, we were not in that wrong place at the wrong time.
Right. Right. And you're bringing like some real life to it when you're showing pictures. It
Right.
allows people to connect a little bit more. Like, wow, you're putting a face to a name, whereas
Right.
all there's just names. And
Right.
wow,
Right.
that's amazing that you do that. So on your website, it's that you're saying that we're coming up on the 20-year anniversary of
Right.
the worst attack on U.S. soil, and you wanted to provide an opportunity to re-engage the public with information about 9/11. So with a unique new voice. So how are you doing that right now, besides like being a guest on my podcast?
Well, since the 20th anniversary is coming up, I've been writing a lot of articles, and pitching them. There's going to be one in the LA Times, and I have quite a few that are coming out. And again, it's kind of just small stories of
Sure.
the individual stories that's in my book. And again, just there's a lot of ways to still educate. I mean, I do quite a few podcasts, but really it's about I'm a writer primarily. I like to express myself through writing,
Sure.
and since I'm out of work, because that all of the tour guides in New York City and in other cities are out of work. Did you know that affected 400,000 workers in New York City? I
Yeah.
mean, it's a huge loss.
Yeah.
So it's just my bid to keep people educated in the way that I can. Some, let's say, tour guides or whatever are continuing their stories by
Sure.
making virtual tours.
Oh,
uh,
nice.
Writing articles is my virtual tour. That's as close as I get to that.
Hey man, you got to do where your strong suit is. I don't know if I want to do
Exactly.
the virtual tour myself. That sounds like a pain in the butt.
Yeah, me too.
So,
Not my dog, not my thing.
yeah, yeah. Well, I love it, and I feel like in light of everything that's happened this last year, just to be reminded as a as a country of some of the things that have happened here, and that was one major thing that happened. And I feel like we're losing sight of what we're all with this whole COVID that's happened. I know you wrote a book, Faith in the Face of COVID, as well.
Yeah.
That a lot of people are losing sight of what our country is built on, and some of the things that we've overcome. And even like just like the value that we've put on our military and our service heroes. It's just it really irks me. Really irks me a little bit, but you want to talk about we've got a few more minutes left, but do you want to talk about you have a new book that you released, Faith in the Face of COVID.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
Well, I talk about in the book that in March of last year, in 2020, I contracted COVID in New York, and those were the bad months, March and
Yeah,
April. That's when
I
they
remember.
had the huge amount of deaths, especially the deaths in Queens. So it was early. People were unprepared, and I caught a very bad case. I was hospitalized twice, and I was told that I had a 50% chance of surviving.
Oh wow.
And to this day, I do have long haul, syndrome, what they call, and I suffer lingering symptoms from that. And I actually,
What is that? I don't know what that is. What is that?
long haul, that's it. That's, if you have a case of COVID, there are lingering symptoms that can continue. So for instance, I have nerve damage. I still haven't regained my sense of taste and smell even a year later.
Oh
I
wow.
have disrupted sleep, but there's different ways that it's ingratiated itself into my system that is still with me today.
Sure.
But I actually talk about 9/11 and of how I was so young and kind of unprepared for suffering, and how when COVID happened, kind of felt a little bit more prepared for it.
Sure.
That one calamity kind of fed into another for me. And not that COVID was any fun or a cakewalk. It was actually very scary because that was a health calamity. That was a health issue that was different from an exterior kind of suffering and concern about your physical safety. This
Right.
was interior. So the actual situation was definitely different. But drawing from the strength that I felt like I gained from 9/11
Sure.
really helped me during my fight with COVID, because it was pretty scary. Your body is essentially erupting, and mine was certainly shutting down.
Oh,
And so I do have a couple of things that I did, not only to kind of keep me alive, but keep me mentally just kind of there and thinking through things without some of the extreme concern, worry, and real like PTSD that I got after 9/11.
sure.
So, but yeah, just talk about my COVID experience, and also got to understand when it came out, there was a lot of honestly COVID deniers, and I really actually thought that coming out with a book on COVID was my voice putting out there that this is real and it's awful, and here's how it can play out, because I go through all my symptoms, how I got it, what it felt like, play by play. I wanted to make it more real, because at the time there was quite a few people who were like, "Oh, it's nothing," and yeah. So at any rate,
Well, thank you for sharing that. Where can the audience find your books, find you, all that good stuff? Can you drop your links really quick?
yeah, ChristinaRayStanton.com. Yep, Christina RayStanton, and but yeah, my books are on Amazon, and but yeah, I mean, I love to hear from people. People write me a lot and say, somebody wrote me today and said, I've got COVID. It's really bad. And, I gave them some of my tips that worked for me when the fear kind of set in.
Yeah.
And because he's actually been told he might not survive either.
Oh, geez.
And so I like to hear from people, and I like to think that, maybe in some small way, some things that helped me has helped other people through my books.
I love that. Awesome. Well, Christina, thank you for being a guest today. Are there any last words of wisdom or advice you'd like to leave with the audience?
Just, you know what? I love that quote from Tom Hanks's mom about, sorry, Tom Hanks actually tweeted it. You might have heard when he got COVID, but it's actually Mr. Rogers. Supposedly his mother said, when you're suffering, or when something's happening to you, look for the helpers.
Yeah.
Right. So I love that thought that, when you need it, look for people to help you. There
Yeah.
are people who are hardwired to help.
Yeah.
And if you can't find someone, be that person, because we need help. We need to rely on each other. And, you want to be that person that people come to help as well, because we need each other. I actually believe I'm still alive today for the people who were there for me to walk and talk me out of things. And so be a helper and look for the helpers. It has been something that's been very important to me.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Kuempel with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, follow, all that great stuff. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.